Okay, so for start on this thing today, we're going to disassemble this steering box, and then we'll be able to drop the front end out. And the plan is to kind of just take the whole front end off so that I'm not crawling underneath the tractor to undo a bunch of steering components. That way I don't risk hurting myself in any way, shape, or form. Now, I have all the steering underneath the tractor unhooked, such as the tire rods. And then there's like a gear, pitman arm, whatever you want to call it, that runs down through here, which then will spin my actual drive, turn my wheels. The rest of this setup is all part of the front axle, and that's what I want to take out, hopefully just as one chunk. Okay, so for starters, before I take this out, just to help give me a little bit of extra leverage on this guy, I took the cotter pin out of here. This takes a 2-inch socket. So let's go ahead and break this free. So as you see, it's not very tight anyway, which there should be some kind of a preload spec on this for the bearing. Now this mechanism has another gigantic bearing on that, and it's got like grease and mud and who knows what all on it. Now there is still a gear down in here that are steering knuckle, pitman, what do you want to call it, splined into. So there's some of that nasty sludge. That's all down in there and all in the bearings and everything. But that's our actual steering gear that pivots to turn our tires. So now this guy is loose, so we can break it free. Just 1.5 inch socket, same one we used up on the steering box. Okay, so I got the puller set up. Another reason why I say just buy this puller, I said you'll use it more times than you'll believe. So let's see if we can get this one to pop off. It's coming off nice and easy. Okay, there we go. It's going to undo these 4 bolts right here. And there should be a seal, I would think. And probably some kind of a gasket. I don't know what kind of bushings and bearings are in here, but surely there's something. And that's going to go that way. Once again, just due to the bevel gear on the end of it. Let's see if we can fish this boy out of here. I was able to see behind all the muck where the bushing is that supports right here. It's actually only about this tall, and it's hollow underneath it. So you have to slide this shaft, which actually sits in there like this. You have to slide this shaft all the way over and drop this end past this bearing boss. And when you do that, it'll tilt it enough to where it'll come up and out of the hole. Okay, so now that I have that much disassembled, now comes the fun part. To get these running boards off of here, on this tractor with the toolbox, it's one bolt back here, got a bolt here, and due to being on a Selecto speed, it's 2 bolts right here for the running board. Non-Selectos go here, and I think this is on here just for the radius rod, because you cannot pull running board bracket through here, which I know it's harder to see on this tractor, but there's no room. Now let me get the clutch pedal out of the way. There's no room here to run that bracket, so that's pretty sure that's only on a Selecto. Just like over here, see there's no way to put a bracket here. And this running board is actually Selecto speed specific. Say that 3 times fast. Get it off. Little incher pedal stays with the tranny. The brakes on these model tractors all go through the rear diff, and the 8N goes through the transmission, so you have to take it off first. I'll show you this running board since it's a little more involved. Get the run, like I said, I'll get the running boards off right now. Then we'll come back to the front. Okay. And there is toolbox off. There's the little nuts, or studs, whatever you want to call it. And then the bolt on the back, which this thing's bent, should not be bent like that. Probably because this got bent. Okay. There's the running boards off. Like I said, the other side, same way, just 3 bolts here, no toolbox. The only difference is this one goes right there into your rear hydraulic inspection cover. This is different for a Selecto speed. This little tang right here, there's actually a bracket that locks it in place. This is turning this allows you to disengage the Selecto speed to roll the tractor. Which I didn't know that. I put it in neutral one day and tried to roll it and couldn't roll it. That just turned me off of the Selecto speed even more. You know, because your gear tractor, you take it out of gear and you can roll it. Okay, so that side's off. Like I say, it's just 3 bolts, or 2 bolts and a nut, if you want to be specific about it. There's our rear brake actuating rod. Might have a slight bend to it, but looks okay otherwise. And here's the, look at the big old ugly Selecto. But I'm going to go ahead and try to get, like, you know, this little guy, the brake pedal, like I said, the drums and the shoes off, just to get them out of the way, and not really so much get weight off the tractor, but just while it's still supported decently with me shaking it, I think I'll feel better just going ahead and getting that stuff off. So I'm gonna have to go get my drum brake tools, which in all honesty, about only thing you really need is the little push spring lock tool. The pliers, if you're not using the shoes, you can, or reusing the shoes, you can use the pliers and kind of, you know, pry or pull the springs against the shoes. If you're going to reuse them, you know, you can't do that. I kind of think the last time I did this up at the house, because I recently had to fix them on the 861, I almost want to say I just use needle nose pliers and a flathead screwdriver. Yeah, tools of the trade, right? Needle nose pliers and a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. Okay, let's see here. First thing we got to do, get this drum off. Drum looks nice. No surprise there, since, you know, it's a working tractor, you know, versus a junkyard one or something. They're similar to a car in some ways, and they're different in others. The biggest difference is, unless you go to, you know, an old car, these are mechanical activated brakes, not hydraulic. The second is, some cars have a primary shoe and a secondary shoe, whereas other ones have the shoes that are the same, which is a leading trailing system. It's kind of what this is. So you don't have to remember, you know, is this a primary or secondary, and back and forth, you know. Both shoes are the same. However, make sure you get the right ones for your tractor, because Ford did change these things numerous times. So just be sure you get the right ones. Now, like I said, I'm gonna grab my tools of the trade. I did bring my pliers, brake drum pliers, but I don't know if I'll really use them or not. We'll see. These come in handy when you take these guys off. That guy right in there. Not this one, the one below it. But to get that off, you know, you gotta kind of pry against your shoe. So if you don't have any rivets in here, you're prying against your friction material, which can break it. So that's kind of about the only time these things really come in handy. It's if you have rivets or you're not reusing the shoes. These little guys, they just slide up, and these guys will knock out. I don't know how well that's going to work with this guy here. So that might be fun. Usually when I do these brakes, I will usually take these guys off first, and then I'll spin my adjuster in to get it off. And then I'll take these brakes and just kind of lift them over these loops here. Which I really don't know how well this is picking this all up because it's so dirty in here. But pick the shoe up over that loop after you take this off. Yeah, there's a little Ford logo. These are some Ford brake shoes on here. They're actually in pretty good shape, but like I said, I already got new ones, so I'm not too worried about that. But like I said, I usually take these guys off, then I'll take the adjuster out, take this spring off, and then I'll hook them over there. And then you can come up here and take this guy off, knock these guys off, and then take this big spring here off. And then that's pretty much it. So let's see what I can get done here. And all this hardware you can buy new. So it's kind of your choice if you want to reuse it or not. I'm probably going to replace mine. Just because this is such a difficult area to get to. Basically all I'm doing right now, I'm just turning the adjuster in, and that just helps relieve some of the spring pressure that I have to fight to get the adjuster out. So now this spring has a hook right here that I can access. See if I can just push it and pop it through the hole here, like so. And watch your eyes and your face. Really should be using safety glasses doing this, but I don't have any handy. Alright, so next thing, lift that up. There's my self adjuster out. I'll take these guys. They'll cooperate with me. Just kind of lift them up and over. And that is just to get some pressure off of this large spring in here. Okay. Now, let's see if I can get this guy out of here. Okay, that just hooks in there and then goes over to that guy. So now only springs left is this one, and then my 2 pins holding it. Okay, that spring there is now completely loose. Now, these little guys will come out. Like I said, I may have to go get a small screwdriver to get underneath them and pry them up. We'll see. Okay, so there's one of them, and that pin there's loose. There's our pin. First brake shoe. Now, that little guy goes in here, and then that pin goes through it, well, through this plate, through your pin and shoe, and then out the back. And I'll tell you, those are fun to get in, especially the second one. First one's not too bad, but the second one will fight you. Another clip. Another pin, other shoe, other collar, and then our other spring. Spring looks a little words for wear. And that's all there is to it. And like I say, this guy here, this backing plate will have to come off to get this out. On the brake linkages, like I say, these won't come out until we take the backing plate off. On the other side of the tractor, the brake pedal is keyed to this guy, so I can't take it off until I pull this shaft. So all I can get off is this guy, and then the cross shaft goes over to the other brake pedal. But I'm going to take this cotter pin and this clevis pin out, and then this bolt on this side. Okay, it's actually pretty loose, so that's good. And what I did there was I loosened it and then just tightened it back so I can keep my adjustment. And like I say in my walk around video, this one being a Selecto speed does not have the parking brake, but I did buy a parking brake setup to go on here, so this piece will no longer be needed. And that clevis there, it's bent. I'll try and straighten it up some. Okay, cotter pin, clevis pin. So now I'm going to go over to the other side of the tractor. We'll take the pedal off of this shaft, and then this shaft will slide out. And this is simply just take the nut off of the bolt. Once the pedal goes flying for you, because there's nothing else holding it now. And then the pedal comes off. Just go over to the other side of the tractor and slide it out. And there's a cross shaft. Mine's got quite a bit of wear right there where it wore out this bushing. These bushings are available. These bushings and the bushings in here are the same. But I think what I'm going to do is just unbolt this part here and pull this front cradle, the axle cradle, the radius rod, and the center part of the axle first with the tractor. Let's get these knees off. It's these big old bolts here I loosened earlier. That did not want to come off. All right, enough pussyfooting around. Probably going to end up replacing them bolts. I'm going to take and try to wrap all this up in a chain to lift this whole assembly. And I'm going to try and support it as best I can to try to not tip it or anything. But before I get the chain in here and in the way, I got 6 bolts holding this cradle on. I'm going to go ahead and loosen them, probably take a couple of them completely out. Maybe just leave these two guys right here that are easily to get to. That's what's going to hold it. And then we'll lift this whole front end off with the tractor, obviously, because I'm not picking that up. So right now there's only one bolt holding this thing completely steady. I'm pretty sure there's only one bolt. Let me just make sure that I don't try and test the tensile strength of a bolt here in a little bit. There's like a sheet metal cover right there underneath the crank pulley. So I guess you gotta take that cover off to change the belts, because you ain't sliding it past it. If you remember, I cut it off because I'm replacing it, so I was just like, screw it. But it should be just this last bolt holding me on. You can see it opening it up right here. So it's a good sign. That means there's no big bolts underneath hiding from me. And like I say, this one, just like the other side, I just want to take it out far enough to, you know, support it. That's about halfway out that nut. So now I'm ready to get the chain hooked up. And we'll get the 861 over here with the new boom pole on it. And we will get this guy off. And then the next thing off is the frame rails and then the engine. Frame rail off. 3 bolts holding it on. That's an engine bolt, 2 back here on the bell housing and 1 on the other side. Plus there's a couple small bolts down here on your block plate you got to take off. Get up just a smidge. I was able to get the running boards off, get the rear brakes off, got the entire front suspension, if you want to call it that, off, and the engine is off. Engine is on the stand at the house. Don't know when I'll go into tearing that apart, but there's the big old nasty Selecto speed. And it's probably a good thing I'm changing it, because these splines that are known to wear out, they're over half worn. So it go bye-bye. So tomorrow, gearbox off, hydraulics off, Selecto speed off, and then axles. Tractor will be fully disassembled by the end of the weekend.